right. Oh my God, I cannot believe it is happening. It is happening. Welcome to the very first episode of a Sit With Me podcast. And I cannot believe that I'm saying this. It is real. I'm doing it. I'm launching my podcast. I'm terrified, but it's okay. We're going to do this together. We're all in this together. Hi, my name is Solène, and I am your host for Sit With Me podcast. I finally gathered the courage to do that. It's been a secret dream of mine. And here I am. My God, I'm doing it, right? Yeah, I guess I'm doing it. So it's the first episode, so we're just gonna ease into it. I'm gonna basically tell you who I am. Who is this girl that you are looking either on YouTube or listening to wherever you listen to your podcast, baby girl, Spotify, Apple Podcast, I don't know. And then I'm gonna tell you why this podcast, what to expect from this podcast, and what will we learn together. My name is Solène. I am from the Caribbean, but I now live in Berlin. I moved in Berlin in December of last year, December 2022. And in January, exactly January 4th, 2024. What is time? I don't know. January of this year, the year that we are right now. I had a little breakdown with myself where I decided to completely transform my life. I got sick and tired of not being where I want to be. And I said to myself, this year, 2024, will be my year. This is the year where I achieve my dreams. I've been on this path of living a great life. I was always in the pursuit, of happiness and joy and gratitude and everything that people tell you that you can have. I always wanted that for myself. Since 15 in the stilettos, like Beyonce would say, right? So I've been on this path of living a better life for a while. But I decided that this year is the year, baby girl. This year is the year where we achieve, where we become, where we get out of our comfort zone. I'm doing this right now. I'm recording myself and I'm launching a podcast. There's nothing further from my comfort zone, baby girl. Where we become who we want to become and where we achieve our goals. Okay? And yeah, so in January I started posting on social media, which is something that I also wanted to secretly do, but I never had the courage. So I've been doing that, and I'm really glad that people are responding well to my content, and that the type of content that people are resonating the most with is the content that I love to do, which is talking about life, sharing my thoughts, talking about changing your life, transforming your life, happiness and joy and gratitude and ups and downs and mental health, etc. Which is something that I've always been very passionate about. I was the kind of girly that would buy, you remember like those magazines for teenage girls back in the day where we would still buy magazines just for the quiz. You remember the quiz? What type of friends are you? What is your personality? What's the best career for you? I did, baby girl, I did all the quizzes that exist in this world because I always wanted to know more about the human experience. Why are we the way that we are? Why do we behave the way that we behave? And human interaction. I was always fascinated by life and universe and trees and the sun and earth, I always loved to have those kind of deep conversation. I am that annoying friend that sees deep meaning in everything that you do. Yes, it is me. And I was the kind of girly that did everything right. I always wanted to do the right thing according to people, but never according to me, right? I did what I was supposed to do. I did the studies that I was supposed to do, that people, and when I mean people, school, society, family, friends would tell you, the things that they tell you would be better for you, right? But turns out it's the right thing that you are supposed to do. I'm doing a lot of air quotes. If you're listening on Spotify or wherever, I'm doing a lot of air quotes right now. Or everything that I just said is in quotation marks. Turns out the right thing is not necessarily what brings you happiness and fulfillment. Who would have thought? Not me. So now at my big age, I decide to completely dive into the journey of changing my life and becoming who I am supposed to become. Surrendering to the universe and to God, whatever the case may be, and whatever that means. I'm also learning that, right? And becoming myself, getting out of my shell. So yeah, over the last years of my life, I worked in the film industry. Yes, behind the camera. I was in the camera department. I was a camera assistant to become a DOP, a director of photography. Google it if you don't know. Beautiful work. But turns out it does not bring me happiness or fulfillment. Yes, it is a beautiful job. I love being on set. I love being on set. It was some of the best years of my life. I loved my job, but it's hard. It's hard work. It's long hours. There's this joke, which is not even a joke, but like, you don't have a social life when you work in the film industry. You don't have time for family, friends, relationships, hobbies. And this is not how I picture my life to be. I like having time for myself. I like taking days off, which you cannot take a day off when you are a camera assistant or when you just work in the film industry, right? I did not picture myself working over 50 hours per week. You know, when I see that, my future self, when I see that vision, it's not what I do. I want to look cute. You cannot really look cute on set. Not me being superficial, but you know, I like to get up and take my time and meditate and stretch and read. You cannot do that when you work in the film industry. So I decided to take a little pause from that. And what a better way to take a pause than to literally leave the country, because I worked in the film industry in the Caribbean, and I literally left the Caribbean. So there's not a better way to take a pause from your career, right? I now have the privilege to do that, so I'm embracing that. And I left the Caribbean, taking a step back from that beautiful life of film industry, which I love. I'm gonna say it. I love being in a film industry. Listen, I think I'll forever be next to a set, but it's a lot. So I realized after a few years that I was not gaining any fulfillment from it. So let's take a break and what makes me happy, right? And since I can remember, you know, I always had this ambition of living a great life, being happy, being fulfilled. Like, I've been on the pursuit of happiness for a long time, because I remember my mom telling me, I will be happy when you will be happy. So I was like, oh, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure, ma'am. So since a kid, I was like, okay, what would make me happy? What makes someone happy? What is happiness, you know? And I always had this thirst for knowledge. I was the kind of kid that was reading books, like, not even reading, I was eating, devouring books from a very young age, so I can get as much knowledge as I can, so I can discover as much as I can and understand people and the world, right? So as the year went by, I lived in different countries. I lived in Canada twice. I lived in Austria, then I went back to the Caribbean, and now here I am in Germany. I would have never thought that I would travel that much, yet here we are. At my big age, with my passport stamped, yes. And this year is the year of change. This year is the year where I answer the question, can one transform their life? You know, this year is the year where I answer the question, what is happiness? How can you find it? Where is it? And it's the type of conversation that I want to have with other people. I am an only child. We have a very bad rep. Stop. Only childs are great. We're amazing. And I'm kind of tired of talking to myself. And I'm realizing, you know, with posting on TikTok, that a lot of people are actually also interested in those kind of topics. And it's the year where I am finally getting out of my shell, and I'm having this conversation with you right here, listening to me or watching me, and where we talk together, and when we learn together, where we share together our stories, our experience, and what does that mean to be happy, to be fulfilled. Can you be happy and fulfilled in this dumpster fire of a world? you know, mental health, the ups and the downs, and where we kind of discover the mystery of life. And so my goal with this podcast is really to have conversation. That's why it is called A Sit With Me, because you're taking a seat with me and we're talking. It's not just, this space is not just about me. I don't want it to be all about me, even though I am phenomenal. I don't want it to be about me. I want us to have a conversation. I want you to talk to me. I want you to share your story, your thoughts, what's on your mind, your questions, your life lessons, the things that you've discovered, the good lessons, the bad lessons, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? It's not just me. This is why I open like a Gmail account, a aseatwithmepodcast@gmail.com, where I want you to share your story. Every week I'm going to come with a topic, and I'm going to announce it the week before, and I want to hear what you have to say about it. If you have experience about that topic, if you want to suggest another topic, if you have thoughts about anything, like I really want that to be a conversational area. I also will have a bunch of interviews. I reached out to a bunch of people that I would love to talk to, on different topics, on creativity, on happiness, on recovery, because I think that this is how we become who we should become. I think that this is how we live a great life, is when we listen to each other's stories, right? When we talk, when we have conversation. I learn from you, therefore I live a better life. You learn from them, therefore you live a better life. And then we live in community, and everything becomes great. You shine your light, she shines her light, they shine their lights, and the world has become a better place. Yes, indeed, right? And this is what I want to do with this podcast, is to address all those existential, is that the word? I think it's the word, existential questions that we all have, and where we can talk shamelessly about things, you know, depression, hard times and doubts, and doubting yourself and hating yourself, or loving yourself, or sabotaging yourself, and why are we the way that we are, what led us to become who we are right now. And it's very often when you hear another person's story that you're like, oh my God, I am not alone. Or when you read a book, you're like, oh my God, I'm not alone in that. And just know that you're never alone in anything that you're feeling. You are never, ever, ever, ever alone. And this is what I want to do with this little podcast. Yes, I also thought about segments to make it a little like lighter, because the topic can be quite heavy sometimes, and we're not here to just get bored, baby girl. We're also here to have fun. And I thought of a few segments that I'm gonna have. I'm gonna have book of the month or book of the moment, because I love a book, and fave of the moment, share a few favorites. Let's start right now. Let's start today. The book of the month, even though it is the end of the month. I am currently reading GYASI Transcended Kingdom, which was on my list for a while. I got it from my local library. Go get a library card. It's great. But the book of the month will definitely be Martha Beck, The Way of Integrity, finding the path to your true self. I will never shut up about that book. I will never, ever, ever shut up about that book. It is a beautiful, beautiful book, life-changing book. However, it is definitely not, the type of book that you just read in a bus, or on your way to work, on your way from work, because there are exercises. Now listen to me. I am the type of girly, if you give me exercises in a book, I don't do them. Like, I barely, those type of books, those type of like self-help and personal development books, they ask you to name 3 things or to answer a question, whatever. I'm like, I will answer it quickly while I'm reading it. But actually with that book, I actually sat down and did every single exercises, and it is a life-changing book. I am not kidding you. It is a really thought-provoking book, and I had a lot of aha moments, a lot of, oh my God, That's why I was miserable. Thank you, Martha. So she was basically dragging me with my non-existential edges. She was just dragging me over and over and over again, and I strongly recommend you to read that book, or to add it in your to be read, TBR, as the people say. And just to give you a taste of it, in her second chapter, which is called Desperate for Success, relatable, I'm just going to read a little quote. She says, "Listen, the problem isn't how hard you're working, it's that you're working on things that are not right for you. Your goals and motivations are not harmonizing with your deepest truth. They didn't come from you. They did not come from your own natural inclinations. They came from the two forces that drive us all off our true path: trauma and socialization." Yes, and that is just chapter 2. She's basically saying that you are miserable because you're not listening to your inner teacher. I can relate. And it's a beautiful book if you want to kind of take a look back on who you are, why you are the way that you are, and figure out where you're going and how to live a fulfilled life. She talks about integrity, but not in a moral sense, more in a wholeness, feeling whole and feeling aligned with who you are truly, right? And at which point in your life do you stop being who you are to become who other people wanted you to be, right? At what point did you kind of separated this identity of yours, where you stop listening to your true self? Because as a kid, we are who we are, but then there's a moment where society tells us who we are supposed to be, and we're kind of letting go, and we stop listening to that intuition, to that inner self, and we become who people are telling us to become, which then led us to be miserable and depressed and sad and lost and feeling lonely and feeling basically unfulfilled, right? And it's a great book for that. So that's my book of the month. I finished it, but I keep going back to it. I keep going back to the answers of the questions. I think I'm going to talk about that book in depth a little bit more in the next episodes, but I'm always going to refer to that book. And she's saying, there's another quote. She says, "Integrity is the cure for psychological suffering, period. According to her, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional," right? And if you don't live whole, if you don't feel whole and aligned, that's where suffering comes into play. Sorry. So yeah, that's the book of the month. Won't shut up about it. Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Madame BECK. She's amazing. It's funny. It's easy to read. She's vulnerable. She's open. She's humble. She's relatable. She's the woman of the month for me. All right, so that will be our book for this month. And now for my fave of the month. It's something a little trivial, but I thought, let's have fun also during this podcast and talk about things that are not just, what it never truly was, that serious. And so my fave of the month will actually be sunscreen. I am a skincare girly. Oh, you need to know that about me. I am a skincare girly. I am a sunscreen girly. Give me all the products that you can find. Listen to me. My skin is my baby. And so I am big on sunscreen since 15 in these stilettos. And one thing that I'm realizing is that Western brands hate me. They hate me. Western brands do not know how to make a sunscreen that does not leave a white cast, or a sunscreen that does not make me look like an oil pan. And I like very much that. And I found, obviously, TikTok, another girly who talked about the Eucerin sun protection face sun fluid pigment control. I'm really far from the camera, but I'm going to put a picture of it on your screen. And this sunscreen is where it's at. No white cast. It gives you like a matte finish. I think that is a great base if you're wearing makeup. So if you're looking for a good sunscreen, baby girl, wear your sunscreen. I tried them all. You can ask me. I tried every brand. And there are some brands that I need to fight. There are some French brands that I need to physically fight because their sunscreens are like never invisible. Never, ever, ever. I always look like freaking Casper the Ghost. Not this one. Not Eucerin. I also bought another one from a Korean brand. Innisfree, I think. Something like a Korean brand. Korean brands, I love you. The Korean sunscreens are 10 steps ahead. I haven't tried it yet. I just received it, but I'm using the Eucerin one, sun protection, face, sun fluid, pigment control. And we're back. My camera shut off because apparently it was too hot, but it's okay. We're back. Little technical difficulties. I'm learning. We're learning. This is the first episode. It's completely okay. What was I saying? Yeah, the sunscreen. Amazing sunscreen. And yeah, I'm going to share some fave of the moment, book of the month. If you have any suggestion, please shoot me an email. And like I said, I'm going to say it again. I need this podcast to be a conversation. So aseatwithmepodcast@gmail.com. And I'm going to finish on that and not take more of your little beautiful time, baby girl. aseatwithmepodcast@gmail.com. If you have any thoughts, if you want to share your story, it can be a voice note, an email, a video of yourself. Next week, I'm going to talk about Baby Reindeer on Netflix and our addiction to hating ourselves, because I watched this show 2 weeks ago, I think, and then as soon as I finished the first episode, I was like, this needs to be an episode on the podcast. We need to talk about it because there's so many topics that are addressed on the show. So next week I'm going to talk about that. If you watched it, what did you think? What are your thoughts? Did the show made you think about, other topics, other questions, other life advice, life lessons, whatever? Share that with me. Wait, I actually have notes of things to say. So, yes, first, write me at the email. I would love to hear from you. Second of all, if you want me to interview someone, if you want to have someone on the show, if you yourself want to be on the show, say that to me also in the email. Shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy to receive people on the podcast. Wouldn't that be great? If you have book recommendations, suggestions, questions, if you just want to rant, I'm all ears. This is a space for us. And yeah, apparently I'm also supposed to tell you, share it with your friends, with your family. And I mean, this is just the first episode. I was about to tell you, give me 5 stars, but it's just the first episode. You don't even know if you like it, girl. So it's fine. I'm going to repeat that to you in the next episode. But yeah, this is the very first episode. And so we conclude the very first episode, of my podcast. Oh my God. I don't know how am I going to edit this. I don't know how am I going to post it. Oh, I created a website, aseatwithme.com, because I can do that. I can do websites. And so there's aseatwithme.com if you want to visit it. It's great. I told you like 1,000 times about the email and how much I want to hear from you. TikTok, Sit With Me, or my account, Solène, all caps, in one word, Solène, all caps. And yeah, my God, if you listen to it, my God, do I love you. If you listen to me ranting, my God, do I love you. Thank you so much. If you stayed up until the end, I'm really glad. I'm really happy that I'm taking that step and that I'm creating my own podcast. Jesus Christ. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. And I see you in the next episode. Take care of yourself. Bisous, bye. I did it.